Coming up on today's show.
Around the age of 27, 28, I experienced extreme burnout and I quit. Quit Broadway, took up blacksmithing because that made sense. Whole other story. That's in my book for sure.
That's awesome.
And that took me on this journey where I learned what I call the resilience formula. And when she said that, my whole body tingled, a kind of effervescent yes. And I'm sure your people listening and you, April, know that effervescent yes. It's like the universes jump even though your wings are like an inch big. You don't even know where they are. And when the world around us is overstepping our capacity to cope and our senses are overwhelmed, we need ways to emote. We need ways to express or exform. In arts therapy, there's a term called exformation. And when we're not exforming, meaning taking energy out, that means we're informing. Inform, to take in. The world around us is forming our inside.
Hi there, I'm April Paige, breaking down the what, when, where, and how creatives get their inspiration. I'm a big fan of the cursey words, and I've been a creative for 30 plus years in marketing and fine art. This is where creatives unite to break down the facts of creative life. Buckle up, let's get lost in the world of creativity together. Welcome everyone to Artist Antics with April, where we talk to creatives about creativity. And today I am very excited to sit down and talk to Annelies Gentile. She's a visionary who is also integrative life and leadership coach, expressive and visual artist, facilitator, speaker, interfaith minister, author of From Chaos to Calm, Leading Change from the Inside Out, an invaluable guide to resilience, sense, solace, and sanity for our rapidly changing world. I have a lot of questions. And she earned a master's degree in health wellness coaching from the Maryland University of Integrative Health, is a recognized professional certified coach through the International Coaching Federation. She lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, and loves to help people see things differently with courage, creativity, and grace. And you can learn more about her on her website, which we'll give it in the description as well, conduitforchange.com. So welcome, Annelies. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, April, for the invitation. I am thrilled to be a part of your creative community, sharing wisdom. So hello, everybody out there in the interworld.
Welcome. I'm so excited to dig into this today. So I know, I went through your intro, but I guess I wanted to give you the floor to talk about, in your own words, how you help individuals, groups, and on stage or whatever you want to, touch on initially. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I work with clients both individual through integrative coaching practices, utilizing the arts, creative process, mindfulness. As you mentioned, I have a master's degree in integrative health and wellness coaching from the Maryland University of Integrative Health. And I also work with groups, teams, speak from the stage to help them synthesize through their team building, well-being, developing empathy, trust, seeing things differently, ideation, helping them synthesize their ideas. So I love what I do. I just celebrated 17 years of being in business and thrilled to be here.
Congrats. That's awesome. My first real question is what was the spark that made you want to get into coaching? Like what was the precipice of that? Yeah.
So I don't know if it was as much the spark in me as it was the spark seen in another reflected back to me. So my earlier career, I was a hair, wig, and makeup artist for theatrical productions, television, film, and print. And I toured on National Broadway Company tours. And around the age of 27, 28, I experienced extreme burnout. And I quit. Quit Broadway, took up blacksmithing because that made sense. Whole other story. That's in my book for sure.
That's awesome.
And that took me on this journey where I learned what I call the resilience formula, the 3 pillars of resilience. Blacksmithing taught me that. I wrote about that in my book, but it took 13 years for me to think about that and then process that and give a name to it. You never know how life takes you on this meandering path.
Amen.
But along the way, I was also the private hair and makeup artist for 3 North Carolina governors consecutively, one of them being Governor Beth Perdue. She was my client for 8 years. And one random day we were, doing what we do. I'm doing her hair in the bathroom of the governor's mansion. And she says, Annelies, I just heard of this career. It's called coaching, and it's what you do with me. You help me see things so differently. You help me solve problems in ways that I wouldn't have considered it, and you help me de-stress when I'm always this is such a stressful job. And she's like, you need to go do that. Now, at the time, she knew that I was retooling. I had started to go to college at the age of 31 because my life had kind of dismantled. Part of that was my doing, and the other was the universe. I became the primary caretaker for my father at the time, and I needed to stay present and caretake for him, caretake for me, and I didn't have an education. So at the time of this, I was in school for 10 years retooling.
Mm.
And so along the way, Bev was a piece of this chapter, for 8 years. And when she said that, my whole body tingled, a kind of effervescent yes. And I'm sure your people listening, and you, April, know that effervescent yes. It's like the universes jump even though your wings are like an inch big. You don't even know where they are, how to find them. You don't remember how to fly, and you just take this leap of faith, and then
I'm going through that process myself.
Right? You just figure it out.
I what I call a recovering 30-year senior corporate marketer.
Oh, yes.
And I have just decided in June to get rid of my corporate marketing identity and go after my
good for you. So you have to
art.
retool.
Yeah, I've had this as a side hustle for 20 of those 30 years that I was in marketing. And I know this is what I'm put on this earth to do and to be. And I know it in my bones. To your point, that's the reason I'm bringing it up, is because, when you know, and I really, the reason I created this channel was to help people realize that feeling that you feel is where you should be going. And there's a reason for it, even if it's not logical. And yes, you don't have to, burn the barn down in order to start making it happen. You can do it in increments, but yeah. So go ahead.
I did
so
both, partial barn burning and just starting over. So because of her encouragement and her seeing something in me that I was not yet to see in myself, it opened a door to become a coach. And my experience as a creator and working in the theater world and working in just intense creative process, and also as a visual artist. I mean, I'm a painter, a sculptor, photographer, like all of the things that an artist can do, I did. And so those worlds merged in that yes. And it took a while for it to form. The Fibonacci spiral, which is on my it's on my website, it's on my logo, it's here in this beautiful shell behind me. That evolution revealed itself, but that seed of the yes started with that someone seeing the coaching.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful story. And, it's funny because when I was in corporate, and every so often somebody would ask me about my art and I'd show them, and they'd just look at me and say, what are you doing here? Like, why are you doing this? Like, why aren't you doing that? That's what you should be doing.
You have beautiful art. I looked at your website. It's lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a new style coming out I'm very excited about. This is not about me. But so it's really important for our listeners to understand, I don't want that point to go by, that, people are reflecting back to you what you should be doing. And, if you have that wall up to say, oh, I'm supposed to be doing it this way. And then a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at me when I'm saying this, because they're like, that's not reality. That's not realistic. You have to have money to do things. And, you have a mortgage and kids and, cars and insurance and all the stuff. And I say there's always a way. So
you just have to have a yes.
To figure it out.
And sometimes that yes is from your own knowing, and sometimes the yes is from the external world.
Yep. Very good.
And you're either in agreement or not. So you just have to have a yes. You don't have to have it figured out.
Yeah.
And I talk about that in my book too, because a part of that breaking open season, and it was quite a season, was also, I wound up living in Dubai, of all things.
Wow.
It was quite a stacking of events. My ex-fiance was cheating on me after we had just bought a house, 5 acres, 3 goats. My parents decided they wanted a divorce after 37 years of marriage. I wound up going to Dubai for 3 weeks. That someone had offered me this trip. And so I went, and then a job landed in my lap the day before I was supposed to fly home. So I actually never came home until a year later, when my father needed care.
Wow. What a story.
I became manager of Hard Rock Cafe in Dubai.
That's
I mean,
amazing.
sometimes you just don't have to have it figured out, and the universe says, here's a whole new path for
You
you. You
are
know,
so eclectic. I love it.
yeah.
Um,
There's
so
lots and
yeah,
lots of stories.
I have so many questions, but I want to
Well, keep
focus
going.
in on.
Yeah, it's your interview.
I
I'm
know
ready.
you're throwing all kinds of stuff in there. I'm like, oh my God, I want to go this way. I want to go that way.
Read
Okay.
the book and then
Yeah.
ask different
So I'm
questions.
gonna
Yeah.
stick to the book. So in your book, you're given given the current state of the world. Let me just say that. Talk about leading change from the inside out. What does that actually look like in someone's daily life, if you can touch on it?
I
Or,
can
something
definitely touch
close
on
to
it.
that. And, everything feels so chaotic right now. I'm just curious, like, where does that start? Yeah.
It starts with developing a sense of self awareness.
Mm,
You have to know yourself, and you've got
amen.
to know what's triggering you. You have to know how to adjust and adapt to yourself in the presence of those triggers, and to learn how to include what's coming apart at the seams into the formula
Yeah.
to develop your own sense of resilience and to adapt in the moment. It's really, really quite simple. How
Yeah.
that can express itself is unlimited
Yeah.
upon your own human experience. But
Well, I'll
it
give you an
comes
example.
down to mindfulness. And this yesterday, speaking of example, so my husband and I, and he's a drum circle facilitator, so he uses rhythm and music to help people live, work, and play well together. We just presented yesterday at OLLI, which is the Osher Lifelong Learning Center at NC State. It's a nationwide
Mhm.
organization, a nonprofit, but it was here in North Carolina at NC State. And the topic was creative approaches to navigating and facing uncertainty. And it's a fantastic class to help develop these skills of self awareness, of mindfulness, but using the expressive arts, the creative arts, the mindful arts, the visual arts, the written arts. We just bring that all in because these are ways that we sense the world. And when the world around us is overstepping our capacity to cope and our senses are overwhelmed, we need
Mm.
ways to emote. We need ways to express or exform. In arts therapy, there's a term called exformation. And when we're not exforming, meaning taking energy out, that means we're informing. Inform, to take in. The world around us is forming our inside without our knowledge. It's subconscious.
Yeah.
When you're conscious of how you're being formed inside, but what you're taking in from the outside, being informed, exforming is one of the ways to release some of this information that you're taking
Yep.
in so that you can reshape yourself.
Yeah.
So I
No,
speak
it's about
about that in my
programming.
book. Mm-hmm.
We talk about that on the show. We've talked about it a couple of times about programming, the programming of, society, government, families, friends, schools. It's really ingrained in our society right now. And, people are breaking out of it more than ever to do things differently and to make themselves happier, for lack of a better term. Peaceful maybe is a better term, or abundant.
Peaceful, free. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, peaceful, free, abundant. But I really think it's important, for everyone to do that internal self analysis or self understanding, because we're so busy all the time that until you take a break from all of that stress, you don't really even know how you feel about things. And that's what happened to me. Like a clear example is, I used to speak for a national company on stage. I would train nationally, and I would get so involved in what I was doing with that my life was just a side note. Like, my family, my friends and stuff. I used to get on planes and I was flying every other week, and I would go on the plane to like figure out what I was going to do personally, and I'd start crying because I realized I'm never going to get to any of this because I don't have time, because I haven't balanced my life. And, I don't even know how to get out of what I've, created for myself. So it was just, it was a hard realization. But then, uh, as you were saying, life happens. And now I like have come full circle and decided to burn the boats, so to speak, in June, and just said, "That's it. I'm gonna be a fine artist and I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna figure it out." And I, in the midst of the year before that, I would say, before June, I was learning about myself, and, my nervous system was decompressing, and come to figure out that I needed to put more boundaries up in my life. And I started doing that, and man, did it cause a shitstorm of people being used to me setting these boundaries, and now, they're like, what do you mean? So it's just interesting how much it has changed. It's caused me to lose friendships. It's caused me to stop, associating with organizations. It had, ramifications in my family life. It's like, every bit of my life was affected by just setting boundaries that were healthy for me. But I just want to mention that, how important that is. Use me as an example, or whatever example you want. But I think everybody should understand, if you're feeling that chaotic and hectic and stressed, and there is no joy in your life, then you need to sit down and say, what am I doing?
Everybody needs a reminder of
Yeah.
what their edges are. And sometimes if you're not aware of this,
Yeah.
the universe will give you an example.
Yes. What's the most common misconception people have about resilience?
They don't understand it. Resilience for some people might be, and I write about this in my book, going back versus creating with what's here.
Okay.
Let's fix it. Let's go back
Right.
to what we had. And resilience is not going back. Resilience is not fixing it. Resilience is, how can you cope and create with what's here and navigate forward in a sustainable manner. Again, it's really quite simple.
Yeah.
People complicate stories, they
Yeah. No,
complicate outcomes, they complicate processes. It's really quite simple.
I want your book. I'm coming to read it. So
Great. It's on Amazon, Kindle,
yeah.
44
Yep.
different audio outlets worldwide, and at
Awesome.
Wake County and Durham County public libraries.
Awesome. So I know each case is different, but how do you help clients move from that awareness to embodying the change, I guess, is the way I want to say
Well,
that.
they don't often come to me with a sense of awareness in the first place. They think they do,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot that they're missing. So again, I'll use the example of the Nautilus shell, the Fibonacci. So they may have a pinpoint, an awareness, something that's brought them to me. They have something. It's a good enough amount of something because they're coming to the door of, of working with a coach, a catalyst, to help them amplify that sense of awareness. And it's a wonderful starting point. So I offer different varied assessments depending on how much they want to work with me. If it's a one-off session, a month session, 3 months, 6 months, a year, it depends on where they are in their process, what they want to accomplish. And that assessment will help me assess and for them to understand, well, gosh, how much am I walking in the door with? I didn't realize that this was a vision of mine. I didn't realize that this was a limitation of mine. I didn't realize this was a strength of mine.
Mm.
And that helps begin the process of self-understanding, self-awareness, and then we build on from there. And when a client graduates from working with me, and some people graduate and I never see them again, and some graduate and then come back, and then come back, and then come back, because life happens and they want to
Yeah,
keep going. I'm
that's right.
grateful to say that I have a couple of clients that have been with me for decades, and
Yeah.
that's the way we work together. It's wonderful. We've gone through the death of parents,
Yeah.
the transitions of jobs, stepping up as a leader, taking new roles, retirement, buying a retirement home in Italy or Spain or France. I love going through the whole arc, and also helping people through the grief process, whether
Yeah.
it's hidden grief, from the layers of life that just stack and stack and stack, where you kind of forget who you are and you have to re-identify and rename and clarify who and
Yes.
what you are and what you're doing in life. And then the direct grief, which is really from direct loss. There's indirect loss. I call it the little d death, all the things
Mm-hmm.
that happen that we don't pay attention to, and the big D death. And that's a big part of my coaching process, and where the arts come into play. You may not realize, but these two worlds are very important because they're essentially in the thing in between. I forgot what this shape is called. You have the two circles and then the circles cross over. I forgot what that's called. Is nature. So there's your nature in the middle, and the nature of yourself, but it's also the nature of the process, of the creative process, nature of life, that there's beginning, middle, fullness, ripeness, and an ending. And I
Mm.
help synthesize this philosophy of acceptance, of a full expression, full ripeness of life, but also to include letting go, include moving on,
Isn't that
include
interesting?
redefinition. And that process happens when you're painting. Here's a blank
Yeah.
slate, but now there's nothing. And then there's, what is this? This didn't work. What do I do with these problems I've made? And how do I fix that? How do I evolve? And then, completion. I'm complete here. Working with
Yeah.
paints that dry in front of your eyes if you don't move fast enough, or
Yeah.
don't close the
Yep.
top. You get all these little expressions of how the natural process, and always fighting entropy. This is a phenomenon that has been named entropy in physics, that we're in constant fight with the natural process that wants to move us towards the ending of a thing. Entropy
Wow.
is constantly moving us towards, if you don't clean your house perpetually, it will get dusty, eventually
Oh
it'll
yeah, it'll
collapse
build up.
around you.
Yeah.
The world is
It'll take you.
constantly moving towards collapse. So my big aha, and what I talk about in my book, From Chaos to Calm, Leading Change from the Inside Out, is these processes of life flourishing, ripening, dying, the seasons. Seasons are all there. My master's degree from the Maryland University of Integrative Health, the original school before it became this school, was the Tai Sophia Institute, which is where I studied transformative leadership.
Mm.
That school was one of the first acupuncture schools in the United States. So my original training was actually based upon the 5 elements of the Chinese medicine model, which have to
Interesting.
do with the season of winter, which is representing hidden potential and related to fear. It's related to the element of water. That moves into spring, which is related to the element of wood. The emotion is anger, but this is about bursting forth, pushing through, reaching out, which moves us into the next element, which is fire, and the element of summer, which is about creativity and
Mhm.
connection. Like you think about fire and how it kind of sparks new ideas, pushing outward. And the next element, which is earth, this is about acceptance, the harvest season, like really taking
Mhm.
something in and accepting. And the emotion is gratitude. And then the final season in the Chinese medicine model, there's 5 seasons. This 5th season is autumn. The element is metal, and it's about cutting and pruning away
Mm.
endings, and the emotion is grief. So there's 3 layers to this seasons: the season
Wow.
itself, the element, the emotions, the qualities. And so I coach from that perspective. I create from that perspective. My paintings have qualities of that process in them. So my paintings are not stagnant. They are interactive. I invite audience to come in, to pull things out of the frame, to scratch and sniff, to move things around, to interact with it. So standard paintings become no longer just a thing you observe, but a thing
Mm.
you become a part of, and that experience changes you.
Oh
So
yeah.
that thread of everything is connected, everything's important, but nothing's important because everything's going to end. And how do you want to create in this moment? And I hope you
Mm.
claim your creative agency in
Right.
everything that you do. That's the essence of my coaching practice, of my
Awesome.
artistic practice.
Yeah, no, that's great. So many things come up. I can relate with a lot of those that you just went through, a lot of those seasons. And then, me myself as an artist, which I think you'll find interesting. I'm in the place now where I'm trying to put more energy on my canvas. So, I talk about this razor's edge of, you have to have the technique and the composition and the colors and all of that under your belt. And then the other side is being able to let go and let the magic happen, so to speak. And, I was so staunch about being perfectionist, which, there is no such thing. We're human. And now I'm on the other end of the spectrum going, "Wee," like, let's just, put all kinds of stuff on there and see what happens. And so I'm trying to bring that back a little bit just to have like a balance. But yeah, I'm coming up with a new style that is incorporating more energy on the piece, but it's still me. So and it definitely is a fight on the canvas. Like you said, blank canvas is the most daunting thing that any artist can have. And because of that, I usually paint it first with some kind of color, just so it's not white and that I can start from somewhere. And sometimes even just those brushstrokes will direct me, but you have to be able to spot it and follow it and not say, oh, I'm going to do it this way and I know better. And that's a mistake. That's not a happy accident. So it's interesting. I'm trying to figure out that balance of what I feel is painterly and really energetic versus staunch perfectionism, and somewhere in between there. So that's where I'm pointed right now. But I love what you talked about clarity. And how do you know when someone's ready for, well, that's a bad way to say it. I'm going to say it the way I had written it, but ready for transformation versus when they're stuck in like survival mode, like, and they're so stuck that you keep hitting that wall and they're not getting it. What happens there?
So the question is, how do I know if they're stuck or if
Yeah.
they're ready to move forward?
Yeah.
Well, first, in my client-based experience, I'd say 99.999% are ready. Because if you're
Okay.
going to make a phone call to me,
Okay.
you are ready to do
Mm-hmm.
something. In the first three words that come out of their mouth, I can tell if they're the 99.9% or they're this percent
Okay.
that needs something else. So for your audience, if it's okay, I'd like to share my
Yeah.
screen and share
Absolutely.
the difference between coaching and therapy, because that's the difference between ready or not ready.
Great.
So I'm going to share my screen, and it's gonna look like this. All right, great. So what you're looking at is a drawing that I made, and this is what I call the psychology umbrella. And in the psychology umbrella, what we're looking at here is a pink umbrella with a handle down the middle and a chart that goes towards the right and a chart that goes towards the left. And on the left side of this umbrella is what I call the clinical psychology part of the psychology umbrella. And from the center towards the left, the focus for the client is on the present, moving towards the past. So for instance, in a counseling session, you get a lot of support, your work on the present, but you're also going to talk about the past because they'll probably say, hey, how was your week last week? How was your month last month? And the further you get into the past, you get more into therapy, focusing on your childhood, and then psychiatry, which focuses on both prescribing and naming possibly a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So a diagnosis, prescription and diagnosis. So again, this is my chart, but the focus is clinical psychology. Someone might need, they could start in the present, but a lot is, oh my God, this thing happened to me and this was my past and I can't this and I can't that. We've all been there. I still have a great relationship with my therapist. And there are times where a coaching client might come to me where we hit a snag and they need a little support that is beyond my wheelhouse, my expertise, and my place in the world. So possibly if they have a trauma that needs to be addressed. And that is sometimes a thing that does happen if someone has already walked through the door with me. And I refer them and I say, either we can't move forward, or if you already have a relationship with your therapist, let's keep going, but I encourage you to work on this thing. And that is a thing that can happen sometimes. I've had only one client in my 17 years of doing this where there was a snag and I needed to release her because this was something that she did not present in the beginning. And what was interesting was she was a therapist. So that's the unusual thing. She actually she had a doctorate in psychology, and she was really good at hiding it. And then when it came out, I was like, yeah, this still needs some work that's beyond where I am. Of the other times, I have worked with clients that come and go. So let's go to the right side of the umbrella. So that's the clinical side, focusing on the present towards the past. You've got counseling, supporting, therapy, listening, psychiatry, prescribing, and what's that called? Diagnosis. On the right of this psychology umbrella is positive psychology. Again, present is in the middle, so we're working with how does that feel now? What's that like for you now? That's where coaching enters, because that's where we're exploring. I'm not the expert, you're the expert. You're the expert of you. The further into the past, you have more expertise about who you are and what your needs are. But on the right, you are the expert. We're working from the present into the future. So then you get into mentoring, leading, telling someone what to do, teaching, directing. Someone who says, here's the process, do it in these steps. It doesn't mean that I don't touch on mentoring and teaching. Again, I have a book. There's parts that I can gift a client, but they can choose whether or not they want to apply it. And so that's the difference. And there are times if someone comes to me and I can tell from their conversation or from their assessment that they need something different, I'd say, this is not a good relationship. I suggest that you get other support, either from another resource, psychological resource, or possibly I'm not the right coach for them. And they need something that's more specific to whatever the process is that they're going through. So that is the psychology umbrella. And
yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love it. I love,
and we've
love,
got
love
some beautiful colors. So
yeah.
the coaching is green, mentoring is light blue, teaching is dark blue, counseling is yellow, therapy is orange, psychiatry is red. Thanks for your listening.
Yes, I love, love, love that. I've never seen anything like it before. That's amazing. I think,
well, because it's often a question that people have. You know, they're like,
yeah.
And that's also when I know that they might be a good client for me, because they'll say, I've been to therapy, and that's not what I think I need. I think I need something else. And those are really good clients for me because they have done some of the work. They understand self-exploration.
Yeah.
But they're looking possibly for some new tools. And this is where the arts come in really handy.
Yeah.
Not all my clients have been to therapy, and that's also totally fine. Not everybody needs it. Not everybody has been traumatized, which is good. Not all the world has been traumatized as much as we'd like to say the world is effed up and everyone has experienced trauma. Not everyone has.
So to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that these are two tools in your toolbox that every adult should have. You know, whether they need, you know, counseling and psychology on a, you know, the left-hand side of your
clinical
diagram.
basis.
Yeah, clinically. Or if they need, you know, mentorship, leadership skills, they need some direction. They don't know how to go from here to where they want to go. And you help them make a plan for that. You know, I think both are valid, you know, and should just be a tool in your tool belt, both of them, to execute whenever possible. I mean, to me, if you could, to the people listening to us, if you have the ability to, you could do both. So, you know.
Yes, and there are some therapists who have crossed over into coaching, and there are some coaches who have crossed over into therapy. I mean, the interesting thing is, as a hairdresser, and for those who like to get their hair done, you know, maybe their first therapist was their hairdresser, and that was kind of another thing that was a big aha for me around why I chose coaching versus becoming a therapist, was holding that sacred space, helping someone feel beautiful, talking about, you know, how was their week, how are they feeling. I always really was quite supportive to help my clients feel better about life. But I realized I personally, I do not want to work in the clinical space. It's not the best use of me. I like having boundaries that I can expand and contract, which is where the arts come in.
Right.
Now, I did study some master's degree work in Switzerland at an arts therapy school.
Wow.
Because I studied in Switzerland conflict transformation and peace building through the arts process, the arts therapy process.
Yeah.
But it was a leadership development and community arts development program, but it was in an expressive arts school. So it was required for us to move in union every day. It was required for us to play instruments. You know, it was the first time I played the accordion. Now I own an accordion. You know, it was required for us to do poetry and to write and to draw every day. And that's imperative, I think, for the rest of society to learn, even if that means washing your dishes, putting your dishes in the dishwasher, become your art form.
Mindfulness.
The way that you see and relate to the world. It's mindful, but it's so simple.
Yeah.
Because you become the creator. Like, this is the frame. It's the frame of the world. So
I've been to, it was an artist camp, right? For the lack of a better word. It was a couple of days, this group. And the facilitator was trying to push us out of our comfort zone because we were trying to get out of our quote unquote art ruts, right? Mm-hmm. So, is that kind of how you use art in what you do? Or I'd just like to hear a little bit more on the application of, you know, what are you helping them figure out? Yeah.
Each client might receive a completely different set of tools for me to work with, because I'm going to meet you where you are. Not everybody's going to get the same formula.
Right.
This is such a co-creative process. And not everybody, to be quite frank with you, can handle it. Some people can't handle that type of creativity right out of the gate. They don't relate to it. It's intimidating. It can kind of freak them out. So it's important to understand, and this is where my gift truly lies in presence, is understanding what do they need to help them open up a little bit more and get that next level perspective and get very present, just a little bit more self-aware. Yeah. So I have a drawer here. This is my coaching office here. That's my table. This is my coaching office. And in my drawer, I have poetry dice with little images on it to inspire poetry. I have image cards, because those cards can spark an idea, where I encourage them to say, where are you in your life? Which of these three cards is the past, the present, and the future? And that just sparks all kinds of ideas. I have an enormous painting in the living room that has 17 different removable canvases that are highly textured and glow in the dark, that I can take someone on a journey for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, a whole hour, an hour and a half, depending on, you know, where we are in our process, to help them see things differently. Because the science behind that is that we think with our prefrontal cortex, it's the part of the brain and is trying to understand and rationalize. But the real part of the brain, the subconscious part of our brain, the amygdala in the back of the brain, part of your limbic system, is only interested in safety and patterns. So through the expressive arts and through the visual arts, I'm able to do a biohack and go beyond what someone thinks is going on to what their system is seeing. And that can help open up a whole new frame, a whole new axis of information. So from the visual arts to the written arts to body movement, I might say, okay, April, I know we're working on this. Do you trust me? And they'll go like, wow. And I would say,
depends what it is.
Stand up and make a shape with your body around how that feels. And they may, you know, do this.
Right.
And I'd say, well, what would be the next? What shape do you want that feels good? Yeah. And that might open up a whole conversation. And then we might draw it out. On top of the desk that my computer is on over here is my art desk. So I have Play-Doh, I have drawing paper, I've got watercolor paper.
Yeah.
So markers.
It's just a way for them to express themselves then, yeah?
Yeah. It is the same thing as art therapy, but I'm not a therapist, and we focus on the past. I've been focused on the present, moving forward, and through these artistic tools, expressive arts tools, visual art tools, people just get a chance to see themselves differently. These are
Yeah.
mirrors. It's so much fun.
Yes. So my next question is, how has your own relationship with uncertainty, I guess, evolved over the years? I mean, you have such an eclectic background. It's fascinating and amazing. I love it.
Thank you.
Um, how has that uncertainty, I mean, it sounds like you go with the flow and you wait for things to show up in front of you. And it doesn't sound like you're very uncertain, but I just want to share this with you and with our audience that, me making this decision not to end my 30-year career was very uncertain. And I'm I'm still on that edge of excited and scared all at the same time, you
Good.
know?
That's a good feeling to have. That's
Yeah.
exactly where you need to be.
Yeah. I'm
So,
right
so
in.
and that right there, when a client comes to me and they sign the dotted line and we've signed our contract together, that's what they say. I'm nervous and I'm excited. And I say, okay, which one are you more? More excited or more nervous? And
I'm
then they
more
go,
excited.
more excited. I'm like, great. Now we can move forward.
You
Yes,
know what's
that's
funny too?
exactly where you want to be. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's taken me this long to get here in my life, but hey, here I am finally.
Good. Good
Better
for
late
you.
than
But
never.
I'll answer your question around how have I changed around uncertainty or what
Yeah.
my belief is. And my belief is I'm certain that I'm uncertain.
Mm,
And what I mean
I
by
get
that is you have to include it in the
that. Mm.
formula. It goes back to the 5 seasons, the 5 elements, the creative process. Diversion is a part of the creative process. We've got inquiry, gathering, diversion, aha, and verification. These cycles of life, all 3 of these cycles of life that I just shared with you,
But,
endings and not knowing
yeah,
is as important as
that's it.
knowing. And
Yes.
that's the switch that's been flipped in my
Yes.
process that led me to write the book, that
Awesome.
lead
I can't wait
me
to read
in
this
my
book.
coaching process, that helped me in all the phases.
It sounds like it's right where I'm at right now. I can't
Yeah.
wait to read it.
And it's the one snag that I think is the most common snag, because people want to just like pass go and collect $200.
Right.
The metaphor from Monopoly, if you're old enough to know what that game is, which I am. I'm 51, so yeah. You can't skip over that step.
No.
And that is the aha. Again, it's all simple. What are you accepting? What are you letting go of?
And that uncertainty really, and I know this isn't about me, but I enjoy sharing because we're talking about it.
Yeah, it's nice, and our
Um,
audience gets a chance to get to know you a little bit more.
but I really am uh relaxing into the uncertainty. I don't know how else to say that.
That is
I'm
exactly the
allowing
way to say it.
myself, I'm being kind to myself in ways that I
Mm-hmm.
have never been before. And I'm allowing myself to feel joy in this moment of uncertainty, which
Yes,
is like, a- as you say, so simple, but just mind blowing concept compared to what we're taught in that programming that we talked about before. So I'm learning it's okay to allow myself to have joy in this moment, and I'm trying to perpetuate that, more into my life, being uncertain. So, and it's already, been fruitful in ways that I couldn't have imagined, you know? So,
absolutely. When my husband turned 50, he took up paddleboarding
okay.
and he bought a Vespa.
Oh,
These 2 realms of transportation that connect him with the elements of water, elements of air, but both of them are about balance.
yeah,
Here he is, middle of his life at 50, working around balance in water, balance on the road, and uncertainty is built into that. You're uncertain that a boat won't come or not come, or that the wind is going to shift and create little
right.
whitecaps that you have to deal with, or that your eyes get a little bit disoriented. Sometimes when you're just looking at the water, your brain can do a little weird thing, and then your balance gets off, and all of a sudden you're like, you don't know where the ground is. But it's through falling in the water again and again that you learn how to balance. So this is imperative to the learning process. And I
Yeah.
think about, when I draw the aperture from me and you to othership to the cosmic consciousness of all things, that's my big jam. I'm gifted at going micro and I'm gifted at going macro. So I think about the wide consciousness of what's happening here. We collectively are learning how to surf. We're learning how to balance collectively, and we have to include falling in the water.
Yes.
All of our ancestors did it.
Yeah.
And we're doing it.
Mistakes. Yeah.
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 We're some odd thing, this human experience. I mean, I don't know what we are. I don't know where we came from. I don't know where we're going. I don't know really what we're made up of other than the scientific things of chemicals and cells and structure and energy. But at the end of the day, again, it's simple. We're just energy expressing itself as me and you and trying to fumble about, making a living, trying to survive, trying to express ourselves. But we're really kind of nothing, but we're everything. And that's why everything matters and nothing matters. And that's why it matters.
That's great.
That's the nutshell. That's the seed. That's the mustard seed.
Yeah. When somebody understands that, I think that clarity comes about how to operate within, this reality that we're in. So that's really important. That's awesome. So I don't want to go over my time today. Thank you so much
for
being
welcome.
Here.
What a thrill.
Really enjoyed that.
And I'll share it one more time.
Yeah.
From chaos to calm, leading change from the inside out. You put a link?
Website and all the links down in the description for anybody listening. And also, Annelies has resources online, courses and free resources, again, at conduitforchange.com. That's correct?
Yes, I do have 3 websites. So if you want to look at my art, I have 3 websites and 10 streams of income because, that's the role of the micro entrepreneur is how to do all these things.
That's right.
How do you wear all these hats?
That's right.
Because we're so expressive and we want our freedom.
That's
right.
At
the same time. So Conduit for Change is my coaching and consulting, and also where I talk about creative approaches to help people navigate uncertainty and change in their personal and professional life. My art website is anneliesgentile.com. And I'm sure you'll share that. It's ANNELIESGENTILE.com. And the other thing is I'm a wedding officiant. So interfaith minister. And so teenytinyweddingraleigh.com is another way that I connect to people, to serve, to make the world a more gentle, loving, compassionate place. And that's another way that I create. So awesome. Thank you so much, April, for this invitation. It's been so nice to play together. And the universe brought us together in such a wild wild way.
Wild and crazy way, but hey, I'll take it.
Okay. Thanks again. I look forward to hearing our podcast, and thank you for all of you out in the interworld for being a part of listening today.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Feel free to nominate yourself or someone you know as our next guest. Thank you for being a part of our creative community. Stay inspired and keep shining bright.